Unquilted. This is the beginning. You begin up here in Chicago. See, I colored the car, and I digitized the arrow, and I digitized the sign, sewed the waves on the bottom, and then we've got Lou Mitchell's in Chicago. I digitized the applique and the words, breakfast, lunch, handmade bakery, carry out, and Lou Mitchell's. Sewed the little leaves and the planters. And then there's just a block, like some block of the state in every row. Every row has a little sign that shows how many miles Route 66 is in that state. This is Tall Paul. This state is Illinois. And got President Lincoln applique on there, and I digitized Illinois. And then there's a restaurant called Cozy Dogs in Illinois. Then the next block is Missouri, and I appliqued the gas tank, and I appliqued the cars and digitized the words for the 66 Park Theater. This is the Wagon Motel. I digitized it. This is the Missouri sign and the arch in Missouri. And I digitized this cup, which this place is called Ted Drew's Frozen Custard. And I guess the big thing about that place is the custard was so thick you could hold your cup upside down and it wouldn't fall out. Then there's a block of that state. Oh, that's not the state block. The state block's way down there. That's star one. And this is just a generic block. This is Kansas. I digitized the sunflowers. And this is Eisler Brothers Old Rivertown Store in Kansas. 13.2 miles. This is the Rainbow Curve Bridge. I printed that off. I got a copy of it on the internet and printed that off on printer fabric. And then I digitized these words down here. There's a 66 sign. I bought a t-shirt with Betty Boop on it. And then I digitized what was on the front of the t-shirt. And I could not find any place where she was still, what do you call it, where you're not allowed to use it? Copyrighted. So I digitized that and sewed out Betty Boop hitchhiking on Route 66. And then there's the block for Kansas. Then we come down here to Oklahoma. And evidently there's a round barn in Oklahoma, which I've never seen or been to. Philly's been there. And then there's the Oklahoma block. It's probably Road to Oklahoma. And of course we have an Indian TP for Oklahoma. Generic block. There's a 50s diner. Then evidently there's a whale here someplace. I appliqued that. And there's a big whale some man built for his wife. I guess you could walk inside the whale and slide down the slide, and it's on a little pond or something. And then we have Pops here in Oklahoma. And I digitized the Pops and appliqued the bottle. Then we've got Texas with the Cadillacs buried in the ground. Texas's sign is a longhorn. And in Texas we've got the Cactus Inn Motel, and the cactus comes up above the block. And I'll attach that later when I get ready to put it on the long arm. And then there's a place there called Ugly Crushed Pies. I digitized this. If you don't know what digitizing is, it's where you take a picture and you put it in your embroidery software and you turn it into thread. Very, very complicated. But I'll tell you, by the time I got through with this quilt, I was getting pretty darn good at it. Digitized that sign. This is the midpoint between Los Angeles and Chicago, is someplace in Texas. And then there's whatever block is the Texas block. Then we're in, what town is this? New Mexico. And this is some kind of a big statue someone made that's in New Mexico somewhere. Can you see the 66 on it? Generic block. New Mexico has a Cocapelli. And I digitized the old-fashioned gas tank. When I say digitized, the lady that made the quilt pattern had the pattern for the gas tank, but I digitized my version of it with the, what do you call that, the hose and the little handles that go into it and the Route 66 ball on top. And then this TP, some kind of a curio shop all over Oklahoma and Texas and New Mexico, where you go in and you buy these souvenirs. I digitized this. There's a little owl at the top of it. Then shows how many miles in the state of New Mexico. There's a Blue Swallow Motel, and then this is whatever block represents New Mexico. Then after New Mexico was Arizona, where I was raised. I lived in Arizona from the time I was 3 till I was 16, at which time I moved to Ohio to live with my grandparents. Now this, I tried digitizing this guy, but with him being all one color, I worked on him for days and days and days, and I never could get him to come out good enough that you could really see him, see his guitar. That guitar, oh my gosh, I worked on it for days and days. So I just finally printed out a picture like I did of the Rainbow Curve Bridge and sewed it in there. It's a Jackrabbit trading post. I digitized that. There's the block for Arizona. Twin arrows, Arizona. I guess someplace in Arizona there's 2 giant arrows stuck in the ground. 385 miles. Then there's the Grand Canyon Caverns. And I appliqued this guy and digitized his teeth and the words. Here's Arizona with its cactus. Daddy used to take us girls out in the desert in Arizona, and he had some kind of a pellet gun or something, and he would shoot at the cactus. There's one of those old-timey trailers that people pull. I appliqued the trees and digitized the trailer. Then very last row is California. And California had some hokey thing on it that I didn't like. I don't remember what it was. I think it was in another block somewhere, and I didn't like it. So I looked up the California state flower, and I digitized it and put that on the California block. And there's just a sign, highway sign. Here's a Wigwam Motel, which I digitized and put that on there. And then here's some kind of a beach scene that I digitized. I don't remember if that was part of the pattern or if I found a picture and made that one up for California. Some of the blocks I didn't like too much, so I kind of made my own. There's the California block. And then this is my favorite. Bono's Historic Orange. This used to be a stand where you could get orange drinks or orange ices or orange something. And look who's looking out the window. My little kitty cats. And I just noticed it's got the wrong kitty in it. That little kitty died. This is Bootsy. And I have another little kitty named Barney now, so I need to get Barney up there. I'm glad I did this because I wouldn't have noticed that. And here's the very last block. You end here in Santa Monica, California, at the end of Route 66. I colored the car, digitized that sign, digitized that sign. And that's the very end. So, you start way up there, block number 1 in Illinois. You go through all of these destinations, through all the states, and you end up down here at the ocean at Santa Monica.